Hey everyone, thanks for watching another video with me on my man cave slash trophy room tour. Today I'm going to be sharing different experiences and different hunts from throughout the years of archery. I'll put some pictures all the way at the very end of the video, that way you can see some of the pictures, but the main things I'm going to be going over today is going to be archery tips, and I'm going to show you a couple different bows that I've got, setups, how I'm running them, a couple of reasons why. This buck here is an 8-point. This is the first buck I ever killed. I'll go over some footage with that. This here is a 10-point. This was my first buck I ever killed in Missouri. So this is a Missouri deer. This here is a Florida deer. And then, you know, hunting out west, this is my first mule deer I ever killed. Killed him in South Dakota. I'll be sharing in detail of all the stories with those. But before I get into that, I wanted to show you two of my bows. The one that I killed this buck with is a Fredbear Element is what this bow is. And I was running a whisker biscuit on here. And so if you don't know what a whisker biscuit is, it's you know, basically a dome, and the arrow goes right in the middle of it, holds it. It's really nice for kind of run and gun style. I prefer drop-aways, but you know, it gets the job done. I was running a True Glow sight on here, so that's what the True Glow looks like. I was just running a basic standard stabilizer. I've got a D-loop on there, and then right now I don't have a peep sight in this bow, but I was shooting 70 pounds and 29-inch draw. So that's that bow set up. I've also got, this here is my recent bow set up. I killed both the 8-point right here and that 10-point. I killed both of those with my Fredbear Element. I shot him in 2007. I shot him in 2013, I believe. And then I shot this one with my PSE. I shot him in 2018. And then I've got some other hunts that I'll go over as well. I think I shot a doe in 2005 with my bow. I've got some footage of some stuff that I might drop in the videos, but yeah, I killed a doe in 2005 with a bow. I killed another, that 8-point was October 20th, 2007. I killed another buck with my bow. I killed this buck right here. I killed him in 2009 with my bow. I shot him with my Fredbear Element, I believe. Killed a doe in 2012, October 8th. Killed that one with my Diamond Deadeye, which Bowtech makes that bow. I also killed another doe. I killed this one with my Fredbear Element in 2013. November 4th, and then I shot the big 10-point on November 7th, but I ended up finding him on November 8th. And then I killed the 4x4 muley, which he's got brow tines too, so some people might call him a 5x5, but I killed him in 2018. So my bows I'm running right now, here's the other bow. This is the PSE. I've got shooting at 29 inches, 70 pounds. Got an octane stabilizer on there. I think that's 11 inches. And I've got a couple of weights added to the end of it. I'm running the Apache drop-away rest on there right now. I'm running a basic D-loop. So I've got here's my regular peep sight. I think that's the Meta Peep is what I'm running in that. That is a quarter. No, I'm sorry. I think that's a 3/16 or something like that. The smaller the diameter, the more accurate you will be. So this bow here is a 1.5 cam technology, where the Fredbear over there is a single cam. You just have one cam at the bottom, a roller wheel at the top. This sight that I'm running is a Spot Hog. This is the Hunter Hogget, I think, the Hogget by Spot Hog. I'm running seven pins in there. I individualized that and built it because I don't like the color yellow because it's kind of hard to see. So I do green, red, green, red, green, red, green. I'm shooting 7 pins, so I start out at 20 yards. So I've got a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80 yard pins. The top of my bubble is dead on at 100 yards. My top 3 pins are .019s. Those are 19s, so those are bigger. And then my bottom 4 are .010s, so those are smaller. So the smaller they are, the more accurate they are. And plus, if you're shooting, 60, 70, 80 yards with a .019, the pin itself is so big that it covers the target and you can't see what you're shooting at. So if you go with that smaller diameter pin, a .010, it's smaller, so you can actually see what you're shooting at. So there's a look of that. I like it for a couple reasons. First off, it's got the wrap right here, goes all the way around. It collects a lot of light. The pins themselves, there's a lot of adjustment. You can move your pins up and down. You can move them in and out. And then that sight, you have 3rd axis adjustment, and just a lot of stuff you can do with it. Spot Hog has lifetime warranty on them. I'm not sponsored by any products or anything that I've went over. This is what I use, this is what I like, this is what I've had success with. I mean, there's so much as far as that you can go to with arrows. Right now I'm shooting the Gold Tip Velocity Pros. These are a 300 spine. So most arrow charts, if you look at the back of the box on the arrows, it'll tell you as far as like what draw length and what poundage you're shooting, and it'll tell you what spine you need to shoot. Difference, this here is a straight regular carbon arrow. I've got 2 arrows here I was just going to use as an example, but both of these are shot out of a 70-pound bow, 29 inches. The setup on these were, I think, right at 380 grains overall setup, ready to go. So and then these right here, I believe was 518 setup, ready to go. These are both Robin Hoods, where you shoot one arrow right into the back of another. With this lighter arrow, it works great. I mean, I got a pass through on that mule deer at 60 yards, and I was shooting a Rage broadhead. Got a complete pass through. This one right here, I haven't shot a deer with one, but you can tell the difference. And this one here has penetration all the way down. I mean, you've got probably 20 inches of penetration, where this one right here, you probably only got, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 inches of penetration. So heavier arrows are going to hit a lot harder, have more kinetic energy. They're going to fly better. Not only that, but it also makes your bow quieter. The heavier your arrow, the more weight is on your string on your bow, so you're not going to have a loud twang or whatever. I'm going to go over some tips outside with shooting this bow, and so if y'all just stay tuned, and I'll show you some tricks. If you got any questions, reach out to me. Hit me up on Facebook, hit me up on our YouTube channel, and I'll help you out any way that I can. Before I go outside, I just wanted to show a couple different things. Here's my bow case setup. Got a Bushnell rangefinder right here. Here's a bunch of different tags from different states that I've had the opportunity to be in and hunt. I've got Ohio, Missouri, Florida, South Dakota, Colorado, Texas. I don't know if there's any other ones or not. So I think maybe Oklahoma. I can't remember. I've been all over the place. But what I've got right here, a lot of different things. I would recommend always having a backup trigger or a release aid. Right now, my main release trick that I would recommend is always put your release around your handle on your bow, where your hand would be. That way, if you put it down there around the limbs, I've seen it before. If you forget about it and go to draw that bow, that release is going to wrap around in your cams. Probably end up causing you to de-string your bow or dry fire it. But this is my release. This is the Scott Little Goose. I love it. It's a great release. As you can tell, it's a single caliper, so you know, you push the trigger forward, you've got one moving part instead of two. It's real smooth, it's real short and compact. I like it. Right here, this is a Cabela's release. I think that Scott Little Goose is about 80 bucks, or it used to be, and then this Cabela's one I think is about 35 bucks. This one here, it's alright. It just it's a backup release. With the Little Goose, it's got buckle, and so I like buckles because you can use the same hole every time. You don't have to worry about inconsistency. Where with this here, it's Velcro, so it's loud. Plus, you know, getting it adjusted to your wrist the same every time can be a little difficult. So inconsistency could be a possibility. So you know, this is just a backup in case something goes wrong with that one. I've always got one in my bow case. A couple other things I'm running, you know, I've got some Allen keys to adjust my bow. I've got a bunch of different field point weights in here. These are 100 grains. These are 125s, and I've got some 175 grains. I've got, you know, string wax. I got a bunch of different, you know, broadheads. Here's a bunch of Rage broadheads, and then I've got just some different stuff in here. This year I'm going to be switching over. That's why I've got the 175 grain, because with hunting in Missouri, you've got a lot bigger deer. So if my shot is not perfect, if I was to hit one a little forward or left or right, whatever the case may be, if I hit bone, if I hit them right in the shoulder blade with a heavier broadhead on the front, it's going to hit a lot harder, have more penetration. I just feel a lot more confident just having that, knowing that if I hit one, that I'll get more out of my arrow. So this here is the Simmons broadheads. They're awesome. This is the Swamp Shark that I'll be shooting. This is a 3-pack. You can order them online from their website, SimmonsSharks.com. I'll be shooting those. I've got a bunch of different buddies shooting them, and they just leave sick, awesome blood trails. So I'll be trying out that this year for 2020. So, like I said, I'm not sponsored or whatever. I've just seen, you know, different stuff. Right now, I'm running a quickie quiver. You know, it's nice. It slides right in, locks in. I can hold 6 arrows. I like to usually have, you know, 3 or 4, possibly 5 with broadheads on them, and then I always like to have 1 or 2 with a field point, because while you're out hunting, a tip that I would say is, you know, before you get down out of your stand or whatever, you know, pick out a leaf or something. That way you can shoot it. Something else too I wanted to show you. This is pretty cool. You can actually put this right on your bow sight, and where your quiver attachment would go. If you get some long Allen screws, you can use this bracket along with your quiver bracket on top of it. This is the S4 phone mount. So if you've got like a whatever kind of cell phone you've got, it will attach to your bow, and then your cell phone will attach to this mount, so you can actually film your hunts. This year I'll be using a GoPro, so I'm gonna try to figure out how I'm going to either attach that to my bow or the tree. Right now, I've been using, I'll show some of my videos from the past. This is the Gorilla camera arm. I've been running a Sony camera and running, attach this directly to the tree, put my camera up top, and then I can sit in the stand, adjust the camera where I need and grab my bow or gun, draw back and make the shot. So that's pretty cool. I'm about to go outside and then, show you several tips. So right here is my PSE Premonition HD. I'm going to go over a couple tips that I have to help out beginners or people even who've been in archery for a long time. This is the quickie quiver I was talking about. It works out. It's not the best quiver in the world, but it gets the job done. Some of the tricks I wanted to share with you is never draw your bow back whenever you don't have an arrow knocked. So I'm going to put my arrow right here, knock it, and then a couple different tricks. Whenever you're shooting, I recommend that you have several different anchor points or different spots that you're consistent with. So I always tell people to put their index finger, that knuckle, right behind your ear, and right where your jawline is. You can feel it, it'll sit right in there. Whenever you hook onto your D-loop, put your finger right behind the trigger. That way you don't accidentally touch it, because I've seen people accidentally touch it while they're drawing. So always put your finger behind there, always draw back, put that knuckle right behind your ear. And then here's my peep sight, so I want to touch the very tip of my nose to the string and then look right through the peep sight, and then I should be able to see all my pins. So I want to be real comfortable. You want to push and pull at the same time. Once I hit my anchor and get lined up, I'm going to look through there and make sure I have a real relaxed grip. Here's your hand. You want your hand to be sitting right here in the throat of your grip, and you want to be real relaxed. I've seen some people shoot with open hand. I just shoot. You want to have real relaxed grip, so you're not real tight. That way you don't jerk it. But this is what it should look like. I'll show you, and then I'll shoot one for you. So I'm right here. Push and pull at the same time. Once I hit my anchor, get that knuckle right behind my ear. See my front hand real relaxed. Want to have a good position. My feet are shoulder width apart. I'm right here. My knuckle is behind there, real relaxed. Tip of my nose is on the string. I would settle my pin on the target, reach around and squeeze the trigger. Now, a trick I've learned throughout the years is you want to try to hold your pin right on your target. A lot of times it's moving around really bad, but if you'll start and draw and have your pin above where you want to hit. So if my target is right here, I want to start with my pin here and then come down real slow and just hold steady right on it, because it's a lot easier to come down to your target than if I'm starting out aiming at the target or lower. It's a lot harder to bring your bow up to the target. So I like to draw straight back to it, get set on, and just be a little bit higher, and then work my way down to it, because as you hold that bow it's going to get heavier. But if you'll start high and just come down to it and then settle and hold and be real relaxed and then squeeze the trigger. I normally always have a set of Allen keys with me when I'm shooting, that way I can adjust if I'm not on target where I want to be. I set my pins every 10 yards, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I practice out to 80. I probably wouldn't never shoot an animal out that far unless if it was like a dire need, if I was like starving or something. But no question, at 60 yards I have taken a mule deer. I'm pretty comfortable at 70 as well. So if I practice more, I practice out to 100 yards. So I mean, it really just depends on the situation on how far of a shot I would take. So, but the number one thing is practice and be comfortable and really know your equipment. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shoot. I've got my targets out there. The first one is at 20 yards. That is a Reinhardt. That's my dad's target. And then the one out there is at 30 yards. That's my block target. That's the block XL. Had both of them. I think I've had that target, the block, for almost 5 years. I've done a lot of shooting and it's held up really good. That one there, I don't know, I think he's probably 7 or 8 years on that. Reinhardt, I think he's replaced the center on it, but he does shoot broadheads, but it's a great target. So here we go. This is what it should look like. Get it full, get set. I'm going to come down to my target, put my 20-yard pin right on the middle of it, reach around, feel my trigger, and squeeze off. So I mean, I hit, you know, right dead center, right where I want to be. Something else I would say too is when you're shooting, a lot of people shoot at different dots, which is fine. But if a dot is this big and you just put your target on it, your pin on it and shoot, it's going to be really hard to be consistent. So the smaller your dot, the more accurate you'll be. I would recommend to start out, you know, 10 yards and work your way back. You know, but I mean, I'm shooting at something very, very small. At, you know, 10, 15 yards, I'm shooting at like, you know, basically a pin. Like put a pin or put a tack and shoot at a tack, because a tack is very small, and if you'll aim at the center of that tack, you're gonna be a lot better shot. So, and if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll try to help you out in any way that I can. Hadley, come back here, because I'm getting ready to shoot. Thank you. Alright, I'm above the target, come down the 30-yard pin, put it right on the middle, settle and focus, reach around, feel the trigger, squeeze off. And I mean, I hit right there where I'm supposed to be. I'll walk down there and show you. And then we'll go in and take a look at some more of the trophies. So, I enjoy shooting. It's a great time outdoors. You know, good exercise. Shooting a bow, you're only going to be using those particular muscles in shooting a bow. I've been to the gym before, I've worked out, and like there's nothing like shooting a bow and working out those muscles. So here's 20 yards. Not perfect, but you know, that'll kill a deer or whatever. So 20 yards right there. Come back here to 30 and take a look at that one. So right there where you want to be. So that's 30 yards, that's 20 yards. And you know, I practice out very long distances, you know, like I said, 60, 70, 80, 100 yards. The reason for that is when you get out in the field, when you get in the real moment, you know, it just makes you that much more comfortable. If you've been practicing a lot at 60 yards, if you get a deer at 30 yards and go to shoot them, it feels like you're shooting at a beach ball, where if you've only been shooting at 30 yards, you get a deer at 30 yards, you know, you might have questions, or it might be like, oh man, like you might be nervous. So that'll take a lot of the nerves out of it for you. One thing I did want to mention in sighting in your bow, a lot of people get it confused or can't always remember. You always want to remember when you're sighting it in to chase or follow your arrow. And what I mean by that is if you're shooting at the center of your target, and let's say you're at 20 yards and you shoot 4 inches high. So obviously you're shooting high. So if you shoot high, you move your sight high. So if you're shooting high, move it high. So chase or follow your arrow. If I'm shooting, you know, even only an inch to the left, if I'm shooting left, move it left. So remember to always follow or chase your arrow when sighting in your bow. Here is where we're going to start off with. This is an 8-point that I killed. This is the first buck I ever killed with a bow. I ended up killing him in 2007 on October 20th. I remember it just like it was yesterday. I went out and was sitting in a hang-on stand, and there in Florida we are allowed to bait. A lot of people use corn, but as far as hunting, you know, nice deer or bigger or a little older, more mature deer, you know, they're pretty smart. So this one here was at least 2.5, maybe 3.5 years old. So you know, a great first bow kill for that size, especially for Florida. But I can remember instead of actually putting corn out and baiting up, what I did is my stand was set up on an oak ridge, and what I did is went in. Now, if you're set up on acorns, deer love them. Now with corn, you might see something every time that you go out, but with acorns, it's a lot, a lot more natural. So, it might be several times before you see something, but odds are a lot of times it'll be a buck or a nicer caliber deer. Here he is. This is what he looks like. Pretty cool. He ended up breaking it off. This is the arrow that I shot him with. This was a Beeman ICS Hunter 400. But I can remember sitting in the stand that day. And just like every day when you're out hunting, you'll hear some noise. I thought I heard some squirrels. I heard something behind me. I turned and looked, and there was a squirrel moving around. A couple minutes later, I hear it again. I'm like, okay, great, another squirrel. So I turned and looked, and sure enough, a squirrel. This kept going on and on and on, and eventually I heard another sound behind me. I'm like, oh, it's just another squirrel. So I turned and looked, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I could see deer legs. So I'm like, here comes a deer. So I'm sitting here in my stand, and there was a tree right here, and I had a little limb, and my bow was hanging up right here. So I'm leaning against a tree because the tree forked like this. So got my back on one tree. There's another limb right here. Comes out, my bow's hanging right there. So I just reach over, I grab my bow, turn, and I get ready for him, to come in. And I turn and look, and I see, like 2 or 3 points. I'm like, okay, it's a little young 3-point. So I'm not really excited, not yet at least. So I sit there, I take a deep breath, try to compose myself. I reach over, grab the bow, bring it up, come around the tree, get it to where it needs to be. So now I'm set up and ready. I hook on the release. So I'm like looking around to make sure there's no other deer around me. And then I turn and look, and then I see this side. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, that's a good deer. So he's walking out. And I think he was right around 17 or 18 yards. So he's coming out. I go back to full draw. Like he stops behind some brush I'm holding. He takes a couple steps. As soon as he stops, I put my pin right on him, and whack! I heard it. Hit him real good, and then he jumped up, turned, and ran off. So I was like, oh my goodness, I just shot a big buck, a giant buck. It's my first buck, a ton of adrenaline. So I get on the phone, call my dad. I'm like, hey, and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, because I had just got in the stand, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just shot a deer. He's like, no, you didn't. I said, I promise you I did. So he said, all right, well, hang tight, and I'll come and help you track him. So we wait till it gets dark, take some lights in there. We go on the spot where I hit him, and I ended up hitting him high in the shoulder. And what happened at the time, I was shooting thunderheads, and I don't know if my fletching might have hit my buster cable and caused my arrow to fly off funky, or if that thunderhead just caught wind, but it ended up hitting about, I watched it fly, and it like did something like real goofy and like planed off, and it ended up going, probably hit him about 6 to 8 inches higher than I wanted, and I hit him 2 or 3 inches to the right. So I hit him high in the shoulder, and he took off. We looked for blood. There was a little bit of blood for maybe 20 yards, just little specks here and there. There wasn't a lot of blood, so I ended up got a couple buddies to come out. We got a dog, and it took about 2 hours, but there were so many deer in the area and tracks and trails, the deer kept getting off, and really what he was doing was circling down wind, getting the trail to try to take us to the deer. Eventually he took us in there and found him, and this is him. So I was really excited. First deer I ever killed with my bow was a doe. I will drop a photo in right now. My first doe I ever killed was on November 1st of 2003. So I was 13 years old, and I was using a little PSE Bandit. I ended up shooting that deer at 9 yards. She came in. I was using 85 grain thunderheads. Came in at 9 yards. I drew back, settled my pin, touched off, and I mean, I smoked her. There's actually 2 deer that came in together, a spike and a doe. So the doe came in, she was at 9 yards. The spike was at 11 yards. When I drew back and shot her, You know, she jumped up, ran out, made a loop. But I mean, I smoked her. I hit her really good, but there wasn't hardly any blood at all. So one of my buddies had a brand new hunting dog that he had just got that he wanted to use for blood trailing. So I was like, yeah, I just shot a deer. So I let him know, and so he brought the dog out. We ended up, you know, blood tracking her. She ended up looping around. I shot her right before it got dark. So on my way out, I walked out to the truck. You know, my dad came, and then ended up the buddy came later on. And where I walked was right near where the deer had went over, and I guess she had bedded down and wasn't dead yet. And she ended up getting up. I bumped her, and she went maybe 25 more yards and bedded down, and we found her right there. So pretty cool hunt, very memorable. I will never forget that moment. The next deer we're going to be doing is this brute right here. This is my Missouri buck, a beautiful deer. He's a 10-point. So you can see he's got a point off of right there, and then comes around. Just a real pretty buck. Got a good frame on him. I'll never forget that day. That morning, it was on November 7th, and that was 2013, I believe. Let me just double check. November 7th, 2013. That morning, me and a buddy had went out. We were trying to get his first deer. We ended up seeing, I think, maybe 4 does and like 3 bucks, but nothing was really big enough, and nothing really came in close enough for him to get a shot. That evening we moved stand locations, and we were sitting there, and I can remember being there. We were trying to get him his first deer with a bow, and the deal was is if a buck comes in, I get the shot, you know, if it's a nice one. I'd been doing work, had, you know, a food plot put in and everything like that. If a doe or, you know, a decent buck came in, it was his shot. So we're sitting there, you know, talking, goofing off, and all of a sudden I heard something. I was like, I thought I heard Barrett. Something like, I was like, did you hear something? My buddy said, no. So I'm sitting there, you know, maybe 30 seconds later, I heard Barrett. I'm like, I think I just heard one grunt. He's like, I don't know, I couldn't hear it. So we both flipped our hats up, our ears up, because it was real cold. And I heard Barrett. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like, that's a deer. So then all of a sudden we hear running. And we turn and look, and this doe comes flying down. And my buddy gets all excited. He turns, grabs his bow, draws back. And I'm like, wait. He's like, what? He like let down. I said, I think there's a big buck coming behind her. And then all of a sudden, here he came. And this was him. I seen, this was the side I seen at first. I thought he was an 8-point. And ended up he ran down. And they ran off down the draw. So I grabbed my grunt call and can call, started grunting and canning. Eventually he came back up to me, and when he did, you know, it was kind of a cool process because I'm can calling, and that doe came up first, and she ended up bedding down at 30 yards, and she's laying there. And then finally, you know, I grunted and canned, and then the big buck started coming up. And when he did, the doe got up. My buddy drew back and was getting ready to shoot the doe. I'm like, wait a second, there's a big buck right behind her. So she came, and I'm like praying. I'm like, Lord, just let her come down this trail. There's a trail at 20 yards, and she got up and came right down it. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready. So there was the buck started moving, but there was another trail at 30, so he hit that trail. So he's walking. I go back to full draw. To stop him. And he stopped, but there's a tree in the way. So I'm like, come on. So I'm holding. I let down. He starts walking again. I draw back. I put my 30-yard pin right on him, right in the middle of his body, right behind the shoulder, and I touch it off. He's quartering away, but whenever I shot, he took one step, and I ended up hitting him, you know, further back than I wanted, but he was quartering away, so it ended up coming out right behind the shoulder, close to where you want it. He took off running, and we were all pumped, excited. I got on the phone, called my dad. He was working on the road, and I told him what happened. And so we didn't even go look for blood. We just left. And I was like, man, I hit him kind of further back than I wanted. We'll just let him lay overnight and go in first thing in the morning. So we got up the first thing in the morning, went over there, found my arrow, started blood trailing. It was a good trail for about 100 yards, and then he just quit bleeding. He only went maybe 75 yards more than that. So he ended up going, 150 yards or so. He was piled up right there. So it was a good deer. I'll drop in some pictures of that. So I think that video is long enough for right now. I've got, several more stories to tell, and I'll tell those on a different video. But coming up soon, I'll have a western video talking about hunting muleys out west, along with elk and different gear that you might take out with you, or that if you had questions or you've never been, I'll just try to walk people through. Most of this stuff is do-it-yourself. I've never been on a paid guided hunt or anything like that. I've been with buddies, or been on properties where stands might be set up, or people have a good idea where deer are, but never paid a guide or nothing like that. I've been on hunting leases where you lease out the property and hunt it, but as far as most of this stuff, public land, public land, public land, that's private. Public land, no, that was a hunting lease. Public land, my dad killed that one. This was private. This was private, but it was right next to public. That there's a hunting lease, public land, public land, public land, and then this one here. Cool story behind that. You have to keep watching my videos to find out. Over here, I've got some more stuff. Up here, this one was a hunting lease. This one here is public land, public land, public land. So I'm mainly a public land hunter. I like to go places that are remote, hard to get to, and I'll give you tips and tricks and tactics on some of that stuff, what to look for, things to try to do. So anyway, if you would, please like and subscribe to my video. That way you can be up to date with more videos like this. Like I said, I'll have a couple more videos coming up soon. One will be on western hunting, and then one will be on just some more hunts and stuff like that. So I appreciate y'all.